Dear viewers, thank you for choosing Manhwa compilation channel. Enjoy watching. A maniac appeared not far from Tianfu Street. So far, 3 casualties have been reported. The victim, cut up by some sharp object, lay in a pool of blood, with his arm outstretched to the side. The victim's skin and internal organs were severely injured. Their faces, bodies, and limbs were completely covered in stab wounds. There were many cuts and they were very deep. The nature of the crime is cruel to the point of unnaturalness. Please refrain from going out and be more attentive to suspicious individuals. We see a boy sitting alone on the sofa. He was watching TV and chewing crispy chips. All you could hear was the crunch of fried potatoes and the aroma throughout the whole room. A family of 5 was murdered in Changhae district. The case is under investigation. The danger looming over our society cannot yet be denied. There was a skinning incident in a building on Gangjang Street. That's the bad news the television was broadcasting. Almost every day from 3 to 5 murders are registered in the city, the boy counted, crunching on chips. What's going on? The boy wondered. He threw a pack of fried potatoes on the table and stood up from the sofa, moving away from the TV. According to the news, citizens are asked not to approach the incident sites. He replayed what he heard in his head. Perhaps they thereby want to hint that the so-called murderer. The guy paused in his thoughts, watching bright blue lightning sparkle outside the window and streams of rain flowing down the glass. Why is he not a human? The boy continued to think. Meanwhile, the rain continued to drum on the glass. Thunder and lightning intensified the already gloomy situation. For some reason, now what's happening doesn't look so strange to me, the guy thought as he walked away from the window. After all, I myself have encountered paranormal phenomena. Apparently, he remembered something that left a mark in his past. I remember how I died of cancer in a past life, the boy began to reminisce. I lay in the intensive care ward until the last second of my life. He clearly saw this picture in front of him, and a second later, I became a tramp in a place completely unfamiliar to me. He recalled the cold and heat, trickles of rain on his half-naked child's body. Suddenly, there was some kind of cape on my head. I opened my eyes wide, wondering why no more rain was falling on my head. Child, from now on, call me grandfather. Come after me. A man with a gray beard and gray hair turned to me. He covered me from the rain and took me somewhere. From that moment on, this old man became my family in this strange world. Grandfather? That's how I addressed this person who appeared in my life, the boy recalled. I thought it would be a simple, measured life. But 2 years ago, the old man left without saying goodbye. What, grandfather? He exclaimed, entering the kitchen and not seeing him again. He left a note and a savings book with 100,000 yuan in his account. This note had the following content. The clan has problems. I have to go. May heaven bless you, my dear grandson. In any comic book about clans, such a cliché is despised, the boy thought, holding his head with his hand. For some reason, he had a serious headache, apparently from the memories that came flooding back to him. So now I don't know how he is. The guy began to think further, scratching his cheek. Night has already fallen. Suddenly, the guy was suddenly blown up. He jumped out of bed, scared. Some strong noise woke up the boy. I'm coming. It's 2 o'clock in the morning. Why drum like that? You have a conscience, the boy exclaimed. His ears were already blocked from such a loud knock. He slowly approached the door, but did not open it immediately. I decided to look the truth through the peephole first. You never know. In connection with these murders, it is better to play it safe. A girl? The boy was surprised, looking through the peephole who disturbed his peace. She stood in front of the next door alone. It knocks so hard. Does she really have something so urgent? Asked the sleepy boy, stunned by the unexpected arrival of an unknown girl. What? What is she doing? He wondered. She climbed up the next door opposite, as if not a person, but some kind of monster. Open up! I know you're here! She growled. Instead of teeth, she had fangs, and instead of nails, she had eerie long claws. She's either mentally ill or some kind of stalker pervert, the guy thought, scared. He felt very hot from the rush of horror. We need to write to our neighbor as soon as possible, the boy decided. Evening, 2 o'clock in the morning. Mistress Lucy, if you're not home, don't come back. There's a dangerous man at your door. This is the message he sent to a woman living nearby. He frantically held the phone, very worried. I'm home, she answered him. There's not a person outside. He continued to write to his neighbor. The girl was no longer sleeping. It's hard not to wake up from such a strong knock. She sat on the sofa with the phone in her hands, afraid to move. What should I do? The girl thought. She cried quietly, covering her mouth with her hand. Tears fell onto the phone screen. Is anyone alive? Asked the monster woman. She looked outside through the peephole, and she didn't stop knocking. Is there really no one? She screamed with a wild cry. Or are you pretending that you don't hear me? The monster girl continued to growl. Meanwhile, the neighbor continued to cry, sitting in front of the door on the floor with the phone in her hands. What could she do? She was just very scared. Open the door for me! Open up! The monster did not calm down. She wailed and knocked as hard as she could, as if she knew that there was someone behind the door. I see her face. This is Mary. The neighbor recognized the girl, looking through the peephole. Her heart began to pound even harder in fear. This is Mary, she wrote a message to the boy's neighbor. She remembered this face. Apparently, she once knew her. Mary? I've heard this name somewhere before, the guy thought. Something very familiar. He tried to remember who she was. There are many cut wounds on the body, hands. Everything is covered in cuts. And now, there are terrible claws on the wounded, disfigured fingers. Come on, open the doors for me. Hurry up, open it! The monster woman continued to scream. She laughed and screamed even harder. I remembered. She is one of the victims of last year's sensational case of rape and murder in the city. It suddenly dawned on the boy. Open the doors. I know you're there. The monster woman growled without stopping. It became more and more scary. Fast forward to a year ago. Open the doors. Please let me in, shouted the girl running down the corridor. A man was chasing her with a sharp object in his hand. No, don't come near me, she screamed, pressing herself against someone's door. There was horror on her face. Bitter tears flowed from his eyes, begging for mercy. Brat! How dare you run away from me during an interesting process? You scratched my face, said the creepy man with scars on his face. My conscience will not be clear if I don't give you credit for this today. He continued to intimidate his unfortunate defenseless victim. Please open the doors. Someone save me, the girl screamed. She was knocking on someone's door asking for help, but no one opened it. The man was already getting closer and closer to her. He was already very close. No one opened the door for the girl. No one came to help, but he had already reached his victim. Stop knocking on the damn door! No one can help you, he said, grabbing her hair with his hand. The man pulled his victim by the loose hair with all his might and dropped him to the floor. And then he did his job. Lots of blood and stab wounds. That's what happened to this girl. But she was still alive. Close the door tighter on me. If you mind your own business, you will bring death upon yourself, he finished as he left. Whoever comes out, I will kill everyone, exclaimed the bloodthirsty man-killer. I'll show you what it's like to have your face scratched. Devil! The man continued to shout and laugh wildly, as if crazy. Well, that's what he really was. Please, someone help! Help! The already wounded girl did not stop screaming for help. It was a very gruesome murder. How ugly you are now. I couldn't be happier. Die, creature, shouted the pervert, and dealt her the final fatal blow with a knife. Pools of blood around, and the laughter of a crazy maniac killer. Hey, I have a little problem here. Yes, under the self-defense clause. Well, it's okay. Now I'll give myself up, and they'll lock me up for a couple of days as usual, he said, laughing into the phone, leaving the crime scene, and the girl remained lying bloodied with a knife in her chest. However, after this, something strange happened. 7 days later, her killer died in custody, in exactly the same condition as Mary. If you don't open the door, I'll come in myself, said the monster woman. She looked through the peephole and probably saw a terrified girl. She terribly climbed onto the door, head down. And with her hair, like a wire, she began to climb into the keyhole. Oh no, the door to the neighbor's apartment was open! The boy saw through the peephole. He became even more worried. I was pouring out sweat. "Oh, my phone!" the guy exclaimed. He jumped out of his hands and flew down with a roar. The vile monster immediately perked up her ears. She heard some noise. This creature had too good a hearing, far from that of an ordinary person. She curled up terribly, squirming as if she had been possessed by a demon. Although she herself was this most terrible, bloodthirsty creature. Continuing to squirm, she made terrible, vile sounds. "Open up! Open the door!" The monster kept screaming. She knocked on the door non-stop, laughing and grinning like evil spirits. "I know there's someone there," she continued, already looking through the peephole of the boy's door. "Damn it! Why did she climb over to my door?" He realized that due to the fall of the phone, he had attracted the attention of the monster. The boy quickly grabbed the bat that was lying behind the sofa, and he stood near the door at full height, waiting for the vile monster. "Come on, come in! Or do you think I'm afraid of you? I am an unoccupied guy, imbued with the purest energy." "I'm not afraid of you, evil spirits," he said, holding the bat even tighter. A projection appeared from somewhere above his head. It was red, like some strange system. "A ghostly aura has been detected, and the demon transformation system has been activated," she announced. "The system is successfully activated. You will be credited with 100 initial ghost energy points." "What? That is, I had some kind of ability that appeared more than 10 years late?" The boy exclaimed in surprise. "Would you like to spend 100 points of ghostly energy to summon a demon card to fight demons?" The beetle alerter addressed him, and the monster continued to knock on the door louder and stronger. The danger was getting closer and closer. "Let's! I have no other choice now." And the boy agreed, so as not to end up in the vile clutches of an evil demon. The boy looked at the projection. It was something new and unusual. But this was a chance to stay alive. He found the lever and tried to turn it on. "Come on," he said, expecting that everything would change soon. There was a sound on this interesting device, as if something was clicking. Ding, ding, and then ding a third time. The guy seemed to find himself in a bright flame of orange, yellow, red tongues of fire. Fiery rays flew above him like lightning. It was like fireworks or a meteor shower. "What is this?" the boy exclaimed. In his eye, along with the bright glow of fire, a huge creepy bear appeared. "Do you want to use the demon card now?" the system asked him. The guy raised his head up, looking at the fiery card. "Hey, have you stopped barging in on me?" Samuel asked quietly. That was the name of this gifted boy. "Do not be distracted. Answer the question." The system turned to him. "No, let him stay for now, but now I know that I have a demon card," he answered, grinning. Meanwhile, the neighbor girl was squatting, hiding behind her sofa. And she tried to be very quiet so that the monster wouldn't hear her. But the demon knocked harder and harder on the girl's door again. She did not stop crying, covering her mouth so that she could not be heard. The monster was already breaking down the door. A wooden chair flew, breaking into pieces. And now, her vile hand with huge crooked claws has already begun to slowly open the door. "I'm in so much pain, help me!" the demon screamed. And so, his hand crawled further and further into the crack of the door and approached the poor girl, frightened to death. "Save me! Open the door!" the monster screamed. And suddenly, a boy tapped the vile creature on the shoulder. "Good evening, beauty," he said to the monster, grinning. The demon turned sharply to the guy. The monster woman didn't expect that anyone wouldn't be afraid of her. "Come to me, baby," Samuel beckoned to her. He decided to help his neighbor, saving her from a vile, bloodthirsty monster. "What?" She turned to the boy, not expecting that some person could interfere with her. "How dare you close the door right in front of my nose?" the demon shouted with a terrible, creepy cry. The monster woman's teeth were large, crooked, and sharp, like a shark's. "Quickly open the doors for me." "I'll tear off your head and eat your brain," the demon screamed. "How loud?" the boy said, grimacing. "As you wish, baby, but first, get yourself in order." Samuel answered her, mocking her. She fell to the floor when the guy suddenly opened the door. "The ghost is shocked. +5 ghost points, the smart system notified him. It looks like I can get ghost glasses, causing mood swings in the evil spirits themselves," the guy summed up. already beginning to understand a little about what was happening. "Why didn't you say it before?" the boy exclaimed. The vile demon was already approaching him. "Don't even try to escape! You just came!" Samuel turned to the monster. "Plus 10 ghost points." "Don't be shy. Let's go to the toilet together," the guy continued. "Plus 8 ghost points." "Stop it!" the monster woman screamed. "I'm here to kill you!" The demon did not stop screaming, squirming terribly. It was like a fiend from hell. "Wait. First, look behind you," he said to the demon, pointing his finger behind her back. The boy had his own method of communicating with ghosts. She turned around and saw herself in the mirror, in the huge mirror that was in the bathroom. It was as if she herself did not expect this. She started screaming even louder, as if she was scared of herself. I jumped away from him. After all, the monster girl thought that she was the same as she was, and not some kind of terrible monster. "What it is? Is this a monster?" the demon woman exclaimed. She jumped back sharply, not understanding what was happening, why she saw not herself, but a demon. "How loudly," the boy said, covering his ears. The plot suddenly took on different colors. "She shows me her teeth and claws. It's so scary." "I'm scared. I'm so scared," the demon woman exclaimed, and immediately began to cuddle up to the guy. "Don't be afraid. Just hold my hand, and everything will be fine," Samuel answered her. And he took the monster by the hand. He tried to behave with her like an ordinary girl, and not a demon. "I will save you from this monster," the demon girl said to the boy. "Thank you," he answered, leading her somewhere. Samuel led her through the back doors to the roof. The two of them ran along the roof, and we came closer and closer to the very edge of the high-rise building. "Mary, go ahead," he said, taking the monster's girl by the hands and looking into her eyes. He was very gentle and affectionate, just to carry out his plan. "Don't want. We came together, so we'll go together," she answered him, remaining in place. She was ready to jump down, but only if she held his hand. The ghost fell in love, plus 20 ghost points. The alarm bug calculated. That's how even such a vile creature can fall in love. "Please stay and deal with that monster in the mirror," he explained to the demon girl. "Please," the boy added, and put his hand on her head, stroking her a little. He tried not to deviate from the task at hand. "Don't say anything, Mary, just fly," Samuel told her. And with a sharp movement of his hands, he suddenly pushed her off the edge of a high-rise building. He really hoped that he had gotten rid of the demon. "What?" the girl exclaimed. She didn't expect this. Nevertheless, being a monster, she flew down very quickly. "The ghost will be deceived and thrown off the roof, plus 30 ghost points," the system announced. "She's going to die now, isn't she?" the boy asked, leaning over the edge of the roof. He looked with hope, but something told him that this was not all. What still remains to be fought for. And then, an explosion. Fire. Clouds of gray smoke. The monster girl fell straight onto the roof of the car. The roof instantly caved in, and the demon fell, momentarily unsettled. She lay there with her vile tongue hanging out. But she was alive and well. It only made me even angrier. After all, now she's unlikely to trust the guy. "Asshole! I will kill you with the most violent death I know!" the monster woman exclaimed, and jumped out of the hot flames of the fire. Apparently, she can be killed only with the use of the demon card, nothing else. The boy scratched his head and thought, "Apparently, I have no other choice," Samuel decided. And he took out the Tiger Warrior card. He decided to act using Plan B. It's time to learn to take a step forward, because he is a demon hunter after all. "Using the demon card," the boy exclaimed. The map glowed, flames blazing from it around an eerie, huge-fanged tiger. The beast was formidable, angry, but majestic and beautiful. He promised him victory over the demon. "Congratulations! You have activated the demon card. Within half an hour, you will receive part of the monster's power and receive a random ability," said the warning bug. The boy has already become half a monster. His teeth looked like Mary's fangs, and his hair stood on end. And the eyes glowed yellow, like those of a snake. After reconciling the card, 10% of the demon's power will remain, and there is also a 1% chance of forever inheriting a special ability, the system announced. "Wow, "Wow!" exclaimed Samuel. He looked at his body. It was as if transparent, in the yellow reflections of the fire. The guy seemed reincarnated. After using the card, 10% of the demon's power will be retained, and there is also 1% to forever inherit a special ability, the warning bug explained to him. "Yeah," the boy answered. His eyes have already become yellow-green with a pupil like a cat's. He even began to move like a tiger and wriggle like a snake. "Samuel, you have activated the special ability of the Tiger Warrior Tiger." The system continued to explain to the boy the acquired innovation. A huge funnel spun like a monster above the girl. It was like a real tornado, only of a fiery color that descended from the sky. Bright blue lightning flashed around the tornado. Creepy Mary watched all this from below. "Now you're in trouble," she intimidated the boy. And she began to climb up the wall to quickly get to her offender, the deceiver, the guy who did not share her feelings. Meanwhile, he was waiting for her upstairs on the same roof of a high-rise building. And he greeted me with a sweet smile. He had a sense of humor that couldn't be taken away from him. Although this is more like dark humor. "Asshole!" Mary growled. She grabbed the edge of the roof with her sharp gray claws, looking the boy in the eyes. They were burning with resentment and anger, as well as a thirst for revenge. "Hooray, you survived! How wonderful!" the guy continued, smiling slyly. "Sorry, I forgot that this is the 12th floor." Samuel finished telling her noodles. "Come on, I'll help you get up," he said, looking like a monster. And he extended his hand forward to help climb. He was again very kind and sweet to the ghost. "Well, if you want to help me, then fine," she answered, and extended her clawed hand to him in response. This demon was too naive and gullible. "I'll just let you know all the happiness," Mary answered him from falling from a height of 12 floors. But still, she was not a fool. After the boy's deception, if we jump, then only together, she decided. And then he squeezed the hand that the demon girl extended to him. Sparks flew when their hands touched. It was as if she had been electrocuted. "Let me go!" she immediately screamed. She screamed wildly, as the guy's touch had a deadly effect on her. It was as if she was sunbathing alive, burning from the inside. "The ghost's palm is burned, plus 10 ghost points," the alarm bug calculated. She pulled her hand away and pressed it with her other hand as it burned with pain. Just one touch of the hand produced such a colossal effect. "How can I let such a beauty go?" the boy exclaimed and picked her up. He decided not to stop, implementing his new plan. He climbed to the very edge of the roof without letting go of the demon girl. On the contrary, he raised it as high as possible. He pressed her tighter, burning her body with fire. After all, this is how the boy's touch now influenced the terrible demon. He burned her little by little with his body. "Baby," he said, smiling. This was again Samuel's cunning plan. Since it was necessary to quickly get rid of the annoying, restless demon of the killer. "Die already!" the guy exclaimed, and again pushed the demon down from the high-rise building. This time, there were many yellow fiery rays, tongues of flame, and a bright red glow around the flying demon girl. "I know it will be extremely difficult to kill you," the boy exclaimed. He looked down from the soaked roof, watching the beast fall. "Therefore, I will do my best," continued Samuel. And he rushed down in the reflection of the flame in order to catch up with the demon girl and finish her off completely, leaving no trace. He flew towards him like lightning, getting closer and closer. He decided to no longer watch from above, but to act, killing her quickly so that she would not have time to recover. Above the bright red-yellow flame, a sharp beam of light touched the sky. Circles of fire glowed around the beam. The boy looked at what was happening after a powerful push with his strong, fiery hand. A cloud of smoke rose towards him. "It hurts, help!" the monster girl wailed. She was already downstairs, almost completely broken into pieces. "Help!" The terrible demon continued to scream with a terrible pleading cry. And the boy stood next to him, implacable, persistent, like a soldier. After all, he had to clearly understand that this was not a person, and that he had now become a fighter against evil. The roar of a tiger. The boy exclaimed and roared like a huge striped beast at the top of his lungs. His teeth turned into fangs, and his eyes glowed yellow. Again, the flame, only this time mixed with green. Apparently, this is how demons die. Once again, Samuel approached the broken burgundy asphalt. Green foul smoke came from it. He leaned down to make sure that he had won. The ghost is a girl. The evil spirit is dead, plus 99 ghost points, the system notified him. He completed his first such difficult task of fighting demons. Wow, I have 99 and another 110 from past assignments. It turns out I got twice as much as I spent. Bingo, said the boy in a joyful voice. He wanted to leave the scene, but then suddenly stopped. I made such a big hole in the ground. I hope it doesn't cause panic, the boy thought, staring at the deep crater in front of him. Forget it. No one saw anything, so everything is in vain. Moreover, no one understands that this was done by an ordinary student, Samuel reassured himself. And holding his hands in his pockets, he left the scene of the incident satisfied. Exactly, he thought as he continued heading straight. Now he not only rejoiced at his victory, but also thought about a lot. What does the evil spirit displayed in the system mean, and what is their danger level? Is there anyone more dangerous than Mary? The boy seriously thought about the seriousness of this issue. First, I'll go back to my place, and then study the system, Samuel decided. After all, he had not closed his tired eyes for a whole day. Meanwhile, the boy was already approaching his door when he heard the tearful sobs of his neighbor's girl. Samuel, why are you so stupid? Having jumped from such a height, you definitely died. The frightened girl did not stop wailing, wiping away a stream of tears. She blamed herself for everything. After all, the boy stood up for her. By saving the girl, he walked towards danger and death. Mrs. Lucy, you don't have to worry anymore. This ghost won't bother you anymore, the boy suddenly said, suddenly appearing behind her. He liked to appear like a ghost, and thereby scare people. Samuel, is that really you? Exclaimed the surprised neighbor girl. She jumped up in shock and surprise at how this was even possible. She was incredibly happy about the sudden appearance of the guy. The girl was simply overwhelmed with emotions. Of course I am, the boy answered her, smiling with all his white teeth. Well, this could not be taken away from him. He distinguished himself again and came out unscathed. Not only dry, but also a hero. Lucy immediately jumped up from the floor and threw herself on the boy's neck. She hugged him very tightly, grateful for the rescue. She was ready to give everything to this guy, just to thank him for saving her life. After all, this night could be the last for the girl. I thought you died, she wailed, never ceasing to shed tears. Only with joy that the guy was alive. She cried for a long time, clinging to the boy tighter and tighter. After all, experiencing something like this is like being born again. I would die and die for this, Samuel thought to himself, smiling from the pleasant contact. Still, a nice, sweet girl hugged him. Mrs. Lucy, I can ask you something. The boy turned to her. He wanted to play it safe so as not to attract the attention of others. What do you want me to do? To save my life, I will do whatever you ask, said the neighbor girl, saved by him today's terrible, unforgettable night, looking into his eyes. Nothing serious. Just don't tell anyone about what you saw today, the boy asked, raising his finger up. He wanted to remain unnoticed for as long as possible so that it would not interfere with his plans to destroy demons. This is our little secret, the guy said, raising his index finger to his lips, thus showing a gesture of silence. Don't worry, Samuel. I know you very well, and you're clearly a good guy, so I won't tell anyone, Lucy promised in response. She could not do otherwise, because for saving a life, silence is a very small price to pay. Wait a little, I want to give you something. She turned to the guy again. And she headed somewhere deeper into her room. She clearly couldn't get by with such a meager payment as a promise not to tell the others. Well, where did I put it? The girl asked herself. She knelt down, reaching under the sofa with her hand. And I fumbled there for a long time, looking for something. I found it, exclaimed the girl. The certificate of ownership of the property was written on the little book in her hands. Here you go, this is my gift to you. We will go afterwards and arrange everything for you, she exclaimed, turning to the guy. Certificate of ownership of real estate, he read, opening the root in surprise. He clearly did not expect such a gift. "Thank you, Mrs. Lucy, but I don't need it," he answered her. "Mrs. Lucy usually rents out this apartment, so I can't easily deprive her of my income just because I saved her life," Samuel thought, deciding to act nobly. "Don't you like this apartment?" "It's okay, look, there are a lot of them." She showed the boy about 6 more of the same kind. She had a whole fan of real estate documents spread out. It was as if she was the leader of a gang that was squeezing people's houses and apartments. "How much?" exclaimed the boy. His jaw dropped in surprise. He did not expect this from his modest, sweet neighbor. At this time, Samuel's brain. "Baby, I heard you want easy money?" This is the picture the boy imagined. He was not only a humorist, but also a dreamer. These 2 qualities cannot be taken away from him. He was sitting on his couch with his laptop on his lap. Next to him was a certificate of real estate. He still accepted the gift from Lucy. It would be stupid not to accept it. After all, the girl had a dime a dozen of them. From the latest news and events of this evening, we can conclude that even more dangerous evil spirits will appear in the future. Samuel read the news report. "Now this is more interesting," the boy thought. "The transformation time has ended. You have retained 10% of the power of the demonic card without gaining a special skill," announced the beeper. "The only way to become stronger now is to use the demon system. Otherwise, I will become the same victim as the others," the boy concluded. "After the demon card expires, I will only be able to cope with base-level ghosts," the guy continued to think. "We need to find out what other murders have happened in the city lately," Samuel decided to Google. Moreover, while he was fighting with one demon, it is unknown what was happening on other streets and in neighboring nearby cities. News about murders. That's all. The boy chose the column. 350,000 results were found for your query. The case of a brutal murder in the city of Bay. Another incident with a brutal murder, 3 in number. The date is February 7th. The guy finished reading. 3 people were killed, and their bodies were thrown in the house, on the stairs, and on the side of the road. The boy began to think about these murders. All the victims were severely mutilated and without skin, as if the killer had some kind of obsession. Samuel continued to study the news with deep interest, very similar to Mary's technique, knocking on other people's doors and then killing those behind her. And this ghost is obsessed with disfiguring and killing people. The boy did not stop Googling. More and more new horizons opened up to him. Tianfu Street. It's very close to the university, so you can go there tomorrow after class, the guy decided, after looking at the map. I'll still be in that area, he thought. I can't just sit and wait for the ghost to come to me, I need it, he thought, deciding what was the right thing to do. The boy decided to find him first, and his eyes lit up, turning into snake eyes. Samuel longed for new adventures. He wanted to achieve new heights and become much stronger than before. After all, in order to kill demons of the highest rank in the future, much more strength and abilities are needed than he had at the moment. Although the boy has already achieved the results he now needs, Zhangbei University lies before us. A large, bright, beautiful building. The weather today is beautiful. The sun is shining in full. A light breeze caresses the foliage of the huge green trees around the educational institution. We had a good time at the club yesterday, says one classmate to another. I still have a slight hangover from yesterday, the second student answered her. The girls apparently had a good time that night. After you passed out, a lot of guys came up to me and asked for my number. They continued to tell each other. Okay, let's hurry up. If we are late, they will force us to write an explanatory note, the girl answered her. It's good that the old man is not here. Otherwise, I would have lost my eyes, thought Samuel, remembering his grandfather. After all, he was a very serious and strict man. Moreover, he was involved in raising such an inquisitive boy like him. Hey, Samuel! Then someone called out to the boy as he walked along the corridor of the university. It's interesting, the boy thought. It was a woman's voice who suddenly needed it. Linda, the fellow student waved her hand at him. Jessica, the second girl introduced herself. They themselves decided to meet their new classmates. Meanwhile, a bunch of fellow classmates were looking through the window of the auditorium. watching as their classmates got to know Samuel. Goddess Linda and Goddess Jessica! This guy is very lucky. Such beauties approached him. The guys from the side discussed with their mouths open, in envy and surprise. Their jaws dropped and drool ran down their chins. Here, Mom asked for this for you at the Taoist temple. The girl was holding some interesting, unusual amulet in her hand. It emitted yellow light. This thing looked like some kind of ancient and very valuable talisman. Wear it close to your body and don't take it off, she explained to Samuel. Thank you, the boy answered her, smiling. He didn't expect to receive a gift like this right away. The moment I picked it up, the evil spirit in my body became alarmed. This thing is clearly not cheap. Do you just want to give it to me? He asked a girl named Linda. After all, he didn't want anyone to spend money because of him, especially a girl. Lately, there have been a lot of murders in the city, so try to be at home. The girl shouted to him goodbye. It was as if she knew something. Linda! Jessica exclaimed, and immediately covered her classmate's mouth with her hand. She dragged her along the corridor towards the exit. It's time for us, but don't go out at night. The girl continued to warn him, breaking out. Interesting, thought Samuel. Linda seems to know about ghosts, too. The guy thought, scratching his cheek with his finger, watching the girls from the university until they disappeared behind the door. Wow, you almost strangled me, Linda said to her friend. And she, in turn, put her hands on her sides and let off steam on her. She was very angry. Linda, you violated the rules established by the Taoist League, she exclaimed, being very dissatisfied. How could you allow yourself such weakness? The girl continued to scold her without letting up. It's just a gift, a talisman. Plus, I didn't say anything like that. The girl tried to justify herself, lowering her head a little guiltily. She no longer knew how to justify herself because she sincerely understood and knew their laws and agreements. Let me remind you that he is an ordinary guy who will die if he encounters a ghost. And he's not like you or your family, not to mention your status in the world of strange people about your origin. Jessica continued to warn her, poking her finger at her head. But I just treat him as my friend, nothing more, the girl said, a little upset. After all, she probably liked this boy. She wouldn't just give him gifts. Do ordinary friends really give talismans against evil spirits? On the black market, it can be sold for $2 million. Jessica continued to scold the girl who acted frivolously. Yes, but what does a simple talisman mean for saving a life? Linda thought with tears in her eyes. She teared up a little after being scolded by her friend. If it weren't for Samuel, who knows what would have happened to me, the girl thought, remembering how he saved her from some evil man. Well, let her go, the guy shouted, running up to help.
It seems that in this world there really is a power that can cope with ghosts. Meanwhile, the boy reasoned while looking at the amulet.
This world has not yet revealed their existence. Probably this has to do with what the system said, Samuel concluded, confidently walking along the corridor. The ghost eats people, the demon eats ghosts. Here he is, the boy thought as he entered the classroom. His thoughts were only about this. He was completely immersed in the topic of destroying demons. Bastard! You know such beauties and haven't even introduced us to them. Don't call me anymore. I'm very upset with you. You are a womanizer, not a friend. I'll shoot you right now, the guys from their classmates wailed. What's that noise? Everyone quickly shut their mouths. Classes will begin soon, proclaimed the head of the group, Shamil. He barked so loudly and unexpectedly that silence truly reigned. Everyone immediately covered their mouths with their hands. Silence continued to reign around. The guys were afraid to even make a sound. Apparently, the authority of the university instilled such fear in them. And he's tall, Samuel thought, standing right in front of him, face to face. Well, since he has money, it means they eat well, the boy continued to think. He didn't even flinch when standing in front of the big man. Unlike the others, he was not at all afraid of him. After fighting the demons, this was basically obvious. Samuel, do you know Linda too? In a few days, there will be a party at my house. Linda will be there. Do you want to come? He turned to the boy, as if testing the waters. No, not interesting, he answered the headman. And with his hands in his pockets, he turned away and went about his business. He completely ignored the village chief's offer. Boldly showing your indifference. Don't you want to go? That's right, I forgot that you have a job after university. He continued the conversation and laughed a little. Right. I'm not a spoiled brat like you, and I don't take money from my rich daddy's pocket. Turning around, he boldly answered the headman with a thick gold chain around his neck. Hey, Samuel, have you confused the shores? He shouted at the boy, getting angry. He turned sharply to the guy and began to show his displeasure. After all, no one dared to be insolent to this guy. Moreover, knowing what a big deal his father is. And then the boy's passage was blocked by two healthy friends of the headman. They blocked his way with a terrifying look. They stood like two big blocks in front of him, asking for trouble. And I see that Shamil's two faithful dogs immediately jumped out of their places. He turned to these two mongrels. He decided to crush them morally first. After all, he will always have time to use physical force. You must first make them angry, get them, make fun of them. And what did they allow themselves to do? He just decided to get them for it. Hey, do you even understand who you've contacted just now? One of them asked him. I don't advise you to cross our path, said the second one. Now ask Mr. Shamil for forgiveness, the big man continued. They continued to stand in front of the boy, not allowing passage. And they didn't even move in anticipation that he would now throw himself at the feet of their headman, begging for forgiveness and mercy. And the headman, in turn, sat importantly on a chair, as if on a throne, and waited for a tearful apology from the boy. Do you want to fight? Well, if you can't live without her, then don't cry later. Only when you cry from pain, don't beg for mercy. Samuel answered them, leaning one elbow against the wall, without a drop of fear in his face or trembling in his voice. The boy just clenched his fist, and then he heard someone coughing behind him. He stopped immediately. So, they prevented him from showing his strength because he had already flashed his intelligence. I actually came to tell you some good news. Shamil's father sponsored a 2-day trip to his villa. The shipment will be tomorrow after class, and everything will be free. A teacher with glasses suddenly appeared and announced the news to them. Hooray! Finally a rest. Long live Mr. Shamil. I cannot believe it. This is a holiday. The joyful exclamations of the students were heard. Apparently, they were all sucking up to this money bag, Shamil's father. How can he be so kind? The boy suddenly thought. Apparently, there was some kind of catch here. He decided to find out over time. Today, we will continue to talk about the dish before execute. We write down the first new word, fish flavor fried egg. You could hear the teacher who was just teaching a lesson. Samuel was sitting in class thinking about something. Because I heard some sound. He became wary, turning his head a little. His gaze turned to the back of the class leader. It was as if he was scanning the guy. The eye glowed green. The pupil turned into a snake. And Shamil really has problems, the boy concluded. I scanned it completely from the back. It's night outside. The full moon is shining. Bright light stars twinkle. High-rise buildings in which people are not yet sleeping. Light bulbs are burning in the windows. This place is so dirty, Samuel said, stepping on a pile of garbage. Indeed, around almost every step one could step on some kind of garbage. He walked along a street called Tianfu, alone in the dark. There were no passers-by visible. Apparently everyone was already sitting at home after work, before watching TV. Show me my equipment, he turned to the system. Okay, she answered obediently. After all, his assistant system was always at hand. Owner, Samuel, Dark Energy 9. Demon card, Red Python Spirit, 1 star. Demon King, 1 star. The guy read. The ghosts are so heavy that I don't know if 2 cards are enough, the boy thought, looking at the siren bug. Are you looking for someone? They asked him through the window. On the door was the sign, Tianfu Road Division. Welcome. And a man was sitting near the window. Excuse me, what house does Linda live in? He asked the man in response, pointing his finger somewhere to the side, just to answer his question something. The man froze, not understanding who he was talking about. And how is he supposed to know some girl named Linda? Don't know. Get out! The man answered him in a very rude tone. And then he disappeared. It was as if the guy asked him something supernatural. He got so scared when I said the name. It looks like this land is not so simple. The boy continued to think and put the whole puzzle together piece by piece. It's so cold here that even at night there is not a single passerby, Samuel noted. And in reality, he did not meet a single person on the road. Smell of disinfectant. Is he coming from this building? The boy thought, raising his head to the top floor, in whose apartment the lights were on, and the smell of disinfection could be heard. The guy entered this entrance and walked down the corridor at a slow pace. He began to sniff out the situation in the city. After all, since the streets are not so crowded in the evening, it means something is happening around. He approached apartment number 101. There was a door made of iron bars inside behind the front door. The boy chose this apartment. It was like a cage. There was a little girl sitting there, a child. She was chewing something appetizingly. The girl's cheeks were already cracking. "Hey girl, why are you looking into the corridor when you eat?" Samuel asked her, coming closer to the barred doors. He tried to see where the baby was looking. "Get out of here! You're scaring my friend," the girl exclaimed, looking at him with a strange look, as if she was upset because the guy showed up. "Your friend?" the boy asked. After all, he didn't notice anyone else around next to the girl. "But the corridor, isn't it empty?" he continued to ask the girl. "My friend was just here, and you scared him away with your arrival." The girl continued to be nervous. There's someone's head and quiet breathing in the dark. It was like some woman was somewhere off to the side. "Gollum," said Samuel. Streams of sweat ran down his cheeks. The boy tensed up in earnest. He sat down a little in surprise, preparing for the worst. "Nancy, who are you talking to there?" The woman who was in this apartment asked the child. Her steps could be heard from afar. "What are you doing here at this time?" the woman asked Samuel and came closer to the door. Apparently, it was the girl's mother. "Sister, do you know a neighbor named Linda?" the boy asked this woman, still trying to find out something. "I don't know this one, now get lost!" the woman exclaimed as if frightened. Sweat began to stream down her face. She was a little rude to him. "Everyone here is so unfriendly." "Then I'll try to find out something on the upper floors," the guy decided. He tried to find out what was happening on these streets. And why is everyone so scared and angry? The woman made sure that the guy left her door and quickly locked it. The people around seemed to be in some kind of panic. But then, changing her mind, she opened the door again and called out to the boy. Apparently, she wanted to warn about something, but still mustered up the courage. "If someone in the hallway asks you, 'Am I beautiful?' don't pay attention to it and just run as fast as you can," she shouted after him. "What? Why should I run?" Turning around, he asked the strange, frightened woman. After all, any information will be a trump card in his hands, because if you say that she is ugly, then this woman will go crazy and chop you into pieces. Her eyes seemed to light up in a strange way. It was all from emotions and fear that attacked, as the boy already understood, many people in the narrow, empty streets. "Yeah? What if I say that she's beautiful?" the boy asked her, and immediately winked and smiled. He had a sense of humor that couldn't be taken away from him. "Then she will make your face as beautiful as hers?" the woman answered the boy. "It's interesting, but does every ghost have a trigger?" Samuel wondered as he walked further down the corridor. He looked up. There was a strange smell coming from there. The boy thought, "This is a clue." The trail of smell stretched somewhere higher and higher. "Up the stairs!" he exclaimed, and ran upstairs as fast as he could. Apparently, he has already learned to smell demons. And I wanted to meet him as soon as possible. And indeed, a bloodthirsty monster was already waiting for him at the top. He grinned at him, flashing eerie, sharp, long fangs. "Damn it!" the boy exclaimed. And he hit him as hard as he could on the floor of the entrance. He did it mechanically, out of surprise. Self-defense is now in his blood. "Scared me to death!" "Well, it's cold here," thought Samuel. And the monster lay with his back in a pool of his own blood. "What? Another one?" said the boy, seeing someone's nasty, creepy shadow nearby. It turned out to be a woman. She fell into his arms from somewhere above. Her hand was bloody. But the girl was not creepy, like that shadow, but was completely sweet. "How painful! Aha!" the girl wailed. She grabbed her wounded arm with her other hand and moaned in pain. Apparently, something bad got her hooked. Interesting, the girl chuckled. And she looked the boy straight in the eyes, as if she was trying to see something, to understand something. Are you human? She asked him directly. Samuel was very surprised. What? He asked, not expecting such a question. Then she abruptly grabbed the guy by the hand and pulled him somewhere forward. Come with me, she exclaimed, and began to run as fast as she could, leading him away from the place where the nasty monster lay. Hey, madam, what are you doing? The boy exclaimed. He couldn't understand who this girl was and where she was taking him anyway. First, she fell into his arms. Now she's leading him somewhere insolently. I want you to survive, so don't ask questions, she answered him, bulging her big blue eyes. Hey, aren't you going out? Was heard on the top floor. Apparently, the demon was already slowly approaching them. It's better to hide here, but if she blocks the exit, then we will die, said the girl with sweat on her face. She was very worried. Madam, could you? He began. But the girl interrupted him mid-sentence. Shut up and get away from me, she answered him rudely. She raised her fingers up. They glowed with a bright flame. So this girl was also a medium, and she had obvious abilities. She took out some kind of card, which also glowed with a yellow-red flame. And she began to make some gestures with her fingers on the map, as if casting a spell. Higher power, bless us and protect us from all misfortunes, said the girl, continuing to perform some incomprehensible ritual. Then, after spinning this glowing card several times and waving it in different directions, she released it. The map seemed to hang in the air, and he and this girl seemed to be reflected in some kind of mirror that appeared on the wall. Then, they seemed to become invisible, and the glowing card seemed to be stuck to the wall next to them. She hung there motionless. Talismans can only hide the anger of living beings, so if you don't want to die, don't make a sound, the medium girl explained to him. We see a long corridor that curves further. This was a passage into tube wells. There were many corridors, like a labyrinth. Someone suddenly laughed. Someone's photographs were hung on the wall next to this shadow. Am I beautiful? Was heard nearby in this dark, long corridor. And someone's hand ran its sharp weapon along the wall, cutting the stones. Answer me. Don't be tormented. Am I beautiful? The voice continued to ask. And on the cold floor already lay the next victim of the demon monster. Am I beautiful? The monster wailed all the time as he walked along the dark corridor. The demon sought out his new victims with a thirst for bloodthirsty murder. Meanwhile, two mediums were hiding in the wall and watching the demon, completely silent. They tried not to even breathe. Where is another person hiding? The monster girl screamed. She left her murdered victim, dismembering him into pieces. And as she left bloody footprints on the cold concrete floor with her bare feet. Where are you? Answer me. Am I beautiful? Tell me immediately. Answer now. She continued to look for the next victim. It seems she has left, exclaimed the medium girl. And they fell from the mirror wall. She jumped out, and Samuel, being hidden for the first time in this way, fell out, falling to the floor. The girl didn't even warn him. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Kelly, and I deal with various supernatural phenomena. Perhaps you think I'm crazy, the girl introduced herself. It turns out that there are professionals in such matters, thought the boy. I don't even know what they think about a ragamuffin like me, who is just starting his career, Samuel continued to think, underestimating himself. She goes back and forth and may come back. If you stay close, then you have a chance to survive, said Kelly. We need to find out where the exit from the building is, the girl said, and someone's hair hung over them. Be careful, she's upstairs. The boy turned to the girl, hugging her shoulder. They looked up sharply. Tell me now! The monster continued to scream. Still hanging head down. Am I beautiful? 6. This vile creature was not filmed. Then her legs began to lift off the ceiling, and she began to slowly descend from the ceiling. It was very creepy. The demon's eyes glowed red. Yellow rays seemed to pour out of them. Behind her back was a bladed weapon with which the demon girl killed her victims. Am I beautiful? The monster girl asked again. And taking out a weapon from behind her back, she began to fly up to the mediums, threatening and intending to attack. The power of the sky flows in my blood. It's time to show my strength and abilities, Kelly thought and clenched her fist. It burst into flames. She was ready to attack. "Talisman of Golden Radiance!" she exclaimed, and raised her hand, gathered into a fist upward, towards the vile demon. She rushed at the monster, striking him with a powerful blow. The monster's bladed weapon fell out of her nasty, clumsy hands and spun with a roar, falling onto the cold concrete floor. "How cool!" exclaimed Samuel. And unable to contain his emotions, he clapped his hands loudly. He admired this spectacle. But then the situation began to take on different colors. You can't even resist being hit. "What a shame," the boy exclaimed when Kelly Ural attacked him after the blows of the bloodthirsty demon. She really didn't even dodge the attack. "I'm running out of spiritual power. I may not be able to defeat it." "You have a chance to escape and call the police," she answered him, barely dodging the blows. Meanwhile, the monster girl was coming closer and closer. She approached her cold, sharp weapon. She wanted to get him back at all costs, and so her vile hand reached out to the metal. She still managed to take back her unusual hooked knife. "Brother!" the monster girl screamed. She staggered from side to side and approached Samuel with small steps, dreaming of taking him into her hands and brutally tearing him to pieces. "What do you think? Do I look beautiful?" the demon girl asked the boy, pointing at herself with her hand. "You are truly a beauty of unearthly beauty," the guy answered her, smiling sarcastically. He remembered the instructions of the woman of this entrance. "Is it true? Am I beautiful?" The monster girl shuddered in surprise. She didn't expect such an answer. "Stop it!" Kelly exclaimed, turning to the guy. Her anger knew no bounds. After all, she understood more about such demons, and she had no idea that Samuel was also a brave and dexterous hunter of demons and ghosts. "Run faster! If you answer her questions, then she will not leave you alone until she dies." The girl continued to explain to him, letting go. "He said that I'm a beauty!" the demon lamented, laughing. And then she rushed, grabbing the edged weapon tightly towards Samuel. She approached him faster and faster. "Stop! Stop!" "I didn't say you were beautiful," the boy answered her. He jumped to the side in time, dodging a strong blow from the demon. She slammed her knife into the wall with all her might. "You clearly have problems understanding what you hear." I was speaking sarcastically. "Got it?" he exclaimed, angry. The boy loved to make fun of these creatures. "Let me make you beautiful. You will be lucky," said the monster girl again, turning to the guy who complimented her. With a sharp movement, he grabbed the demon's hand in which she was holding her bladed weapon, and he squeezed it as hard as he could. "Do you want to make me happy?" he asked the monster. The boy smiled maliciously, as if provoking a demon. He greeted her by throwing her over his shoulder. It was very clever and masterful. "Then come with me and have some fun!" the boy exclaimed, and rushed forward, taking the demon on his back. He rushed like the wind, and Kelia looked after him, asking questions. Samuel kicked the door as hard as he could until it opened with a bang. It was a powerful blow. "Well, don't restrain yourself," the boy continued to talk, mocking the girl with a demon. He wanted to deal with this monster as quickly as possible, but did not yet fully understand how to do this. "Because I'm beautiful? You want to do something with me?" "What a hooligan!" she screamed with a wild cry. The monster woman even knew how to flirt with a guy. "Let me go, you hooligan!" the demoness shouted. She opened her mouth with sharp fangs. Her eerie, pupilless eyes glowed with a bloody red light. Meanwhile, the boy continued to laugh. He had his own special approach to demon girls. And in principle, he did a good job. "How funny. My nickname is just a hooligan," Samuel told her. "Spiritual strength plus, come on, let the bully get to know your beauty better," he continued the conversation. "Spiritual power plus," said the system. "Oh no! Is he really going to do this?" the demon thought. "Well, let's go." The boy continued to lure, deceiving her. "Can bullies do this? What kind of monster is this freak?" she wondered. Spiritual strength plus he reached out to the demon, pretending that he wanted to kiss her. Get away from me! The monster girl shouted. Hey, you! I have a knife with me, she exclaimed, threatening him with the weapon. I can use it to intimidate him, the demon decided. Are you in such a hurry to have fun with me? Don't forget to close the door, she told the boy. Meanwhile, Kelly walked along a dark, long corridor, holding her wounded arm with her other hand. Is he trying to save me? An ordinary person needs great courage to resist an evil ghost, the girl thought as she moved on. At this time, the demon girl pressed Samuel to the floor, pouncing on top of him. She sat directly on him, already anticipating a bloodthirsty murder. She looked into his eyes, holding her bladed weapon in her teeth. Apparently, she was already imagining how she would dismember this boy. If you love me, then become the same as me, the demon growled, baring her sharp fangs. Her eerie eyes glowed red. She was already ready to attack the guy. The longer I provoke her, the faster she will cut my throat, Samuel thought. And I decided to act as soon as possible. Let's get down to business, exclaimed the boy. And he pulled out a bright red python card glowing with yellow colors. This was his takeover plan, using the power of the red python card. Red Python, fight! The guy shouted, starting an attack against the demon girl. The huge snake was red with bright, fiery scales. The boy himself seemed to have turned into an evil snake. His teeth turned into sharp white fangs, and the eyes became like those of a snake. Even his pupil has changed. First card of choice, the power of the demonic python, explained the alarm bug. He screamed, directing all his strength against the evil, vile creature. Everything around was glowing with bright rays. It was as if yellow lightning surrounded the boy. Hey, sister, why are you so fixated on your own appearance? He asked the demon girl, smiling, bringing her to clean water. You and I are both ugly. You should understand what it's like when other people look at you with condemnation, the demon answered him. It was as if she was revealing her soul to him. She held a sharp-edged weapon in front of her. And Samuel also grabbed it boldly by the handle. I understand you. You're not confident in yourself and your appearance, the boy said, taking her hands, looking into her eyes. It was as if he was letting her know that he completely understood her. Do you need my help to get rid of this complex forever? The guy who knows his business continued to talk with the demon. How? How to get rid of him? The demon girl asked him, looking with pleading, creepy eyes. It was as if she was waiting for advice, salvation, a way out from him. You just need to remove the excess tissue on your neck. He continued the implementation of his plan to destroy the demon. And no one will judge you for your appearance anymore, the boy said, taking the demon's disgusting face with both hands. Well, if we talk about what's above the neck, the monster girl suddenly thought. And then it began to dawn on her that the guy was cheating. Are you implying that I need to cut off this terrible head? She screamed in anger, with a terrible cry. This time I won't be afraid of you, the boy said, putting his arm bent at the elbow forward. She glowed with a completely bright fire. Red python armor, Samuel exclaimed, and his hand became not only fiery, but also completely covered with scales. It was like he was half python. Meanwhile, the demon had already flown up to him in a jump, raising her bladed weapon over his head. He flew towards her in the bright, fiery flame of a red python. What? The demon girl screamed wildly. She writhed in pain in the bright glow of a burning, strong flame. Samuel snatched her weapon from the monster, and the demon was already incinerated, writhing and screaming with the eerie, vile cry of a dying demon disappearing into the darkness. Something burned the boy's hand. He opened his palm to see what was wrong. Even using this armor scale technique, I can cut through easily. It's a good blade, the guy thought, looking at the cut on his palm. Give me back my knife, the demon exclaimed and jumped out of the blazing fire. She couldn't live without her weapon. Your knife? The boy asked, smiling slyly. And then he laughed, again provoking her to another attack. Now he's mine, the guy answered. She's the one who's tenacious, Samuel thought. But he didn't stop fighting, because he had to finish this job to the end. How did you manage to get off the ground? The demon thought, not understanding what happened, as if in a dream. Was I able to improve my skills? Thoughts continued to wander in her head. Looks familiar. Whose breasts are these? The demon thought, looking at the body lying on the floor. It was headless. It looks like she's mine! The monster girl exclaimed in shock. Her body was lying on the cold floor, and her head was lying separately. The demon was seriously scared. Samuel, meanwhile, watched with a smile on his face as it burned out in a bright glow of red-yellow fire. The mutilated body is a ghost. Death is approaching, ghostly power plus, the system notified him. Meanwhile, Kelly heard a strong explosion behind a closed door in the corridor, along which she was walking. The locked door opened slightly from such a powerful explosion. Such a loud sound. He died there inside, the girl thought, and immediately shed tears, already burying him in her soul. She was very worried, because she had already managed to get used to this nice guy a little. Then, she hid her magic dagger in her blouse so that, if necessary, she could defend herself from the evil demon. This was her spare-edged weapon in case of another attack by monsters. "Then I can't just run away alone," Kelly exclaimed confidently. "Forward! Ghost!" She continued to prepare herself for the attack. "I just wanted to open the door for you," said Samuel, leaving. But the girl, rushing to fight the demon, accidentally hit him on the head with this door. The building they were in, next to it there was a sign for an angel beauty salon. It was night outside, but bright lights were already shining in some windows. Meanwhile, they moved further along the corridor, planning to get out. The boy kept his hands in his pockets. The girl walked behind. They were both very tired after a sleepless night spent fighting the demon. "How could you kill that ghost?" Kelly asked him. She was very surprised, because the guy was an ordinary person. "Secret," he answered, smiling. But she was very glad that the boy was alive. They approached the victim, killed at the hands of a vile, bloodthirsty demon. The man lay dead. His body and head were lying separately. "Stop pretending you're a ghost." "Give me more ghostly power," the boy said, leaning towards the bloody, severed head of the murdered victim. "No movement," said Samuel. He reached with his finger into the eye socket of the corpse, checking whether it was definitely a dead man and not a demon, and whether there was still a warming life in it. "It doesn't smell like a corpse yet." "Or do you have to wait 7 days, and then the smell will appear?" the boy reasoned, because he still wanted to make sure it was not a ghost. "Are you weird too?" "It seems like I've said hello before," Kelly thought while watching the guy. "Why am I a weirdo?" "I'm not like that," said the boy, as if making excuses to the girl. Although he was truly strange, he just didn't want to admit it. Nowadays, supernatural beings live in all corners of the world. For many, it has already become a habit of not understanding and not accepting such people. The girl continued to think. She stood looking at the phone screen. "I was looking at something there, lost in thought. Apparently, it contained some important information. Hell R. Kelly. Fingerprint verification." The girl went into the phone. "Today, Daomen and Yinkao are the two largest forces." She began to read the news. Daomen spends colossal forces and resources to recruit its strange people. Yinqiao pays more attention to improving the internal system of their clan. The medium girl continued to read. "However, they launched this application through joint efforts." Kelly exclaimed in surprise. "This is an invitation code. Scan it," she read. "You can also take a photo of the ghost's mutilated body and get points for reporting it in the app. +1 point, +1 point, +1 point." Meanwhile, Samuel was reading on his phone. "And these glasses are currency in the world of strange people," the girl concluded. "Wow!" the boy exclaimed, continuing to rummage through his phone with interest and great excitement. Unlike the girl, he had other interests. Demons and only demons settled in his brain. "How many photos do you usually take?" "Do you need a photo of me with the ghost? Is everything clear in the photo?" "How long does it take to accrue points?" Samuel continued to monitor. Okay. Let's talk about this later," Kelly said, covering his mouth with her hand, only to silence the boy. She was pretty tired of him being fixated on only one thing. "Now we need to get out of here. There's still a ghost hiding in this building." The girl continued to be indignant. "Another ghost? And where?" "Where?" the guy asked, smiling. He seemed obsessed with this topic, and he was ready to take on a new demon. "Hey, now is not the time to joke. Judging by the aura, there may be a ghost of the highest rank of anger here," she explained to the boy. "Why did she suddenly become so serious?" Samuel thought, looking at the girl. Somehow she changed suddenly. Apparently, the demon that could be here is really not an ordinary one. My grandfather taught me from an early age to wear pants that could handle the size of my butt. It is the duty of those who work here to protect the residents of the house, exclaimed the boy, holding a bladed weapon in his hands from the demon he killed. Forward! The target is a ghost of the highest rank of anger, the guy said, and walked forward along the corridor. He held a sharp knife above his head like a banner. He wasn't going to give up. Go ahead until the end. Well, he saved my life. I owe him. So let's go, she told the guy in a confident tone. Since he so boldly decided to look for this vile creature, then I'm with him, the girl thought, and didn't bother asking. Which floor should we go to? Samuel asked the girl. On the 7th, Kelly answered, and they immediately began to head upstairs. Perhaps he is right. Those who once decided to engage in the supernatural should be held accountable for it. I had never thought about this before, she concluded in her head. At this moment in Samuel's head, there is another frightening moment. There are only 18 minutes left before turning into a demon. We can't waste this time, the boy decided. Walking further along the gloomy, dark corridor, ahead is a door with a sign, "Welcome to the Angel Beauty Salon." It looks like the smell of disinfectant is coming from here, the guy said. This time, they both became very serious as they stood in front of the closed door. Molly must have become an evil ghost after unsuccessful plastic surgery, the boy thought as he approached the surgery chair. Does this belong to you? He asked the girl, touching with his hands some talismans hanging on a red thread. Yes! I left them here to ambush Molly, Kelly answered him in surprise. It was her doing, as the boy immediately guessed. At the moment when I was about to finish off her, another ghost appeared and attacked me. The girl began to explain to him, remembering that battle with the demons. What's another ghost? Where is he now? Samuel began to ask the girl. Did you hear what the strangers were saying? She asked, and then they both froze a little, falling silent. I have a suspicion that the ghost is out there somewhere. Look there, she turned to the boy, pointing her finger to the side. Ghosts have a really strong aura. This ghost is somewhere at the end of the corridor, the monster hunters realized. They pressed their hand on the bell of the door further down the corridor. Already at the first one that came across, where this incomprehensible stench was coming from? Actually, that's what ghosts smelled like. Some strange shadow could be seen there. Someone's dark, tall silhouette, standing at full height. Who are you looking for? The woman asked, approaching the door. She was not very friendly, however, like many residents of high-rise buildings. This no longer surprised the boy. Hell R document type, police officer ID. Confirm. Kelly appeared on the phone and pressed the touch screen. We have received a report of an incident of violence within the walls of this building. We ask you to cooperate with the investigation, the girl said, showing her false ID through the door peephole. Oh, come inside, the woman answered them, inviting them to enter her apartment. Is this application so easy to use? Kelly concluded. There is a musty smell in the room, the girl thought, walking around the room. Surely they came to the right place. After all, the girl's instincts usually did not deceive her. There were photographs hanging on the wall. The family was pictured there. The husband is next to the child, and the wife is sitting next to them on a chair. Well, it looks like this is a family photo, Samuel concluded, looking at the photo. Sharp realization. They suddenly tensed up, as if they simultaneously sensed approaching danger. Is there anyone in the house except you? The girl asked the owner of the apartment. No, just my son and I. The woman answered them in a strange, rude tone. Your son? The boy asked in surprise. After all, they haven't seen him here yet. We should check the boy too. We want to talk to him. Can you call him? They turned to this strange woman again. Is this necessary? He's only 8 years old. How can he do anything bad? The landlady continued to ask, holding her hair somehow in fear. What are you saying? We are not accusing your son of anything bad. This is a simple verification procedure, so please cooperate with the investigation, Kelly explained to her in a confident tone. Then I'll go and call him, the woman said, heading towards the door of another closed room. As if she didn't want them to go there themselves. She tried her best to prevent this from happening. I already talked to the residents of the house once. They said that besides Molly, There is another strange person. She turned to Samuel, telling him what she knew. Many of the residents of the house met one boy who ate something with appetite. And according to rumors, they saw him on the 6th floor. She continued her story. This strange child! Get out of here! You're scaring my friend! This is the same friend that the girl downstairs was talking about. The guy then remembered about the child with whom he had already talked. I also found out that there were some organs in the victim's body, Kelly continued to tell, but suddenly stopped. Then the owner of the apartment suddenly appeared in front of us. They both jumped up, not even a little scared. My son doesn't want to go out. It's better for you to go see him yourself, the mother addressed them. After all, there is no way to get away from these policemen. Okay, let's come in, the boy answered her, and they went straight to his door. Hey, my friend, we've come to see you, the girl said, opening the door sharply and smiling. She did not want to scare the boy in any way. The boy was sitting on a chair near the table, and he was holding something in his hands. It was some kind of book. Apparently, he was studying something. Why did you come? The boy asked without even turning to them. I just raised my head, looking up from reading. You don't have to be afraid of us. I'm your mother's friend. I came to visit you. The girl turned to the boy with a smile. Moms? Do you mean that woman outside? The boy asked her in response, looking up from reading. The boy did not recognize this woman as his mother. She's not my mother, the boy suddenly exclaimed. His small eyes bulged strangely. He seemed scared. There really is something strange going on here in this apartment. Well, it's obvious that the family photo in the hallway is of you and your mother. What do you mean, not your mother? Samuel asked, smiling. He provoked the child into an honest, open conversation. If she is not your mother, then who is? Oh, you lying asshole, the boy said, continuing to smile sweetly. I am not lying. This man is no longer my mother, the boy continued, his head buried in the book. He still didn't start to confess. What are you doing? Continue, the boy turned to him. He put his hand on the boy's head as if he wanted to calm him down. He stroked the boy's hair with his hand a little to win him over. That evening, my mother washed her hair in the sink. Dad, I want to eat an apple, she said, turning to the man. Dad was cutting an apple in the kitchen. Okay, it will be done, he answered her, continuing to cut the ripe, juicy fruit. That late evening, the time was 23:59. Dad, you are the best, the boy exclaimed, licking the lollipop that his father gave him. The boy loved his kind, good dad very much. That evening, Dad was peeling an apple with a particularly long peel that was not finished. The boy continued to talk. Mommy, look, I'm really good, the man told her as he approached his mother in the bathroom. And then midnight came. It's 12 o'clock at night. The clock chimed loudly as a reminder of the time. Mom turned her head to the side. Her view had already changed at that moment. She looked at the long apple peel hanging down. Let's try it. Father handed the apple to Mom. You don't need to feed me. I can do it myself, she answered somehow rudely. Not as usual. And then something strange began to happen, the kid continued to tell. He looked fearfully at one point, trying to stay on topic. Mom ate an apple in her life, but Mom continued to wash her hair in the mirror, the boy said. What happened then? Samuel asked him, listening carefully. They opened their mouths as much as they listened to the child, because that means they came to the right place as they felt. The boy completely broke down, telling them this terrible truth. I was so scared that I immediately rushed to my room. Therefore, I can't say what actually happened there, said the boy. The only thing I can say is that after what happened, this person who looked like my mother never cooked food for me again. I have to go downstairs and ask my friends for leftover food, so that I can quickly eat them and return home. The boy finished telling the story. What do you think about this? Kelly asked the boy. They both stood deep in thought. After all, the situation was not simple, and I didn't want to scare the boy even more. I heard one very strange conversation in the city, Samuel began to speak. He tried to remember everything in as much detail as possible. At 12 o'clock at night, you need to completely peel the apple in front of the mirror. While you are cleaning it, the ghost from the mirror will take the body and life of the person who looked into it. The boy finished telling the story. "Let's go to the bathroom and see everything for ourselves," he told the girl, and headed in that direction to find the bathroom. After all, there may be some other evidence there. What? Where's the mirror? There was only a wash basin, and above it, there were only 2 nails. Someone apparently removed the mirror from there, which was quite strange. "The nail is still here, which means the mirror was removed from here recently," said Samuel, touching the nails with his hand. "The food is ready. Guys, stay and eat with us." They heard a voice coming from the kitchen. The hostess called them for dinner. She tried to be very hospitable so as not to arouse any suspicion. "But did the boy just say that his mother doesn't cook for him?" the girl said. "I don't understand what's happening either. Let's see what happens next," the guy answered her. "All the dishes are ready," the woman said, inviting them to the table. She smiled, but her eyes were somehow strange, wild, as if inhuman. "Oh my God! There are only bones and larvae here! Even in prison, prisoners are fed better. How can you do this to a boy who is almost imprisoned here? How is he not tired of looking at this?" They discussed what was happening, looking in horror at the dishes on the table. "What's the matter, guys?" "Don't you eat this?" the landlady continued to ask them, trying in every possible way to please this couple. "Well, you know, the food is too simple for us," the boy answered her. "Samuel, what are you talking about?" Kelly exclaimed. "Well, he has a tongue," the girl thought. "Then what do you like to eat?" "I'll cook for you whatever you say," the woman asked, turning to them. She tried not to lose her temper, showing her calmness. "Please prepare stewed pork with strawberries. Don't make the pork too fried. I like it when the taste and smell of the meat are preserved," the guy explained to her. The ghost from the mirror feels unwell. The ghost's energy is plus the system notified him. Now it became clear to me what kind of ghost this was, the boy thought. He smiled, finally understanding what was going on. Although from the very beginning I understood that she was probably their main prey. "Sis, I was just joking. I suggest ordering food at home," Samuel continued to scoff. He provoked the ghost more and more. "I really want to try the horse's eye. It would be impolite on your part if you do not agree to this dish," the boy continued. "I have 1 horse eye in my refrigerator." "Please wait a little," the woman addressed them. "Is there really?" The guy was surprised. 5 minutes later, the ordered dish was already ready. The horse's eye looked at the boy from the plate. What a twist. He did not expect that this woman would have the dish he ordered. It was so unusual. "Don't you like this kind of food?" "I cooked this eye for you," she told the guy. The woman hoped that she had already pleased such picky guests. He took this eye with sushi chopsticks. And he allegedly looked at the dish with interest. He was simply preparing for such an unusual meal. He opened his mouth and began to poke that eye in to show her that he did not refuse the woman's hospitality. He allegedly chews on the eye, and the landlady moves back a couple of meters in horror. She was surprised by this unusual man, but it still lies on the table in a plate. It's like he's looking at the boy straight in the eyes. "And you have the nerve to call me an adult?" "Yes, you appeared before the golf ball," Samuel said, folding his hands one on top of the other in front of his face. "We need to somehow find out without any hindrance where this charlatan came from," the ghost woman thought meanwhile, racking her brains. She was no longer as calm as before, and she began to rush from side to side. "You are making the life of a ghost quite difficult. He is angry, ghost energy plus," announced the beetle alarm. "Don't be offended by what I tell you, but you are eating dogs, and in this day and age that can be considered animal cruelty. It's not surprising that your son begs for food from his neighbors every day," the boy said to the woman. He provoked her more and more. "I even noticed the huge, sharp claws on her hands. What strong energy the ghost has," the guy thought. "Little sister, don't worry, I'll give you a chance." "I need from you 1 dish without sides," Samuel said, hugging the woman from behind with his hand and slightly squeezing her neck. "Don't you need to boil the man for him?" he asked in the ear of the puzzled ghost. "In any case, you have all the necessary ingredients at home," the boy continued, and he picked up her son in his arms. "You just need to peel it, put it in boiling water, and cook it. Only 3 steps need to be completed," he said. "You," the ghost woman began. Her eye began to become bloodshot. The face takes on a purple tint. she slowly began to show her essence, completely changing. Here, she continued to squeal. And she no longer bared her teeth, but terribly sharp, large fangs, like those of an animal. She was vile and terrifying. "Play with me!" the ghost exclaimed and screamed with a terrible roar. He was even more terrifying than the previous demon monsters. Much scarier and stronger. "This is definitely evil of the highest rank," Kelly expressed her opinion. "Still, this is not the first time they have encountered evil. Let's play if you don't get angry." "If you're not angry, then come and play with me," the boy mocked the ghost. "I'll play with you with such a horse," exclaimed the monster. "Phantom Energy Plus," the system announced. "I was joking. Why are you so angry?" "You're as boring as your little sister," Samuel continued to provoke the ghost. "Then I will take our game as seriously as possible," the boy exclaimed, mocking the monster. He decided that the time had come to attack. "Red barrier!" he shouted, finding himself in the air above the ghost from the mirror. It was like an explosion. Bright yellow-red fire, flame in the fight against the demon. It illuminated not only the apartment, but also the dark night sky. It was as if a mirror appeared in flames in front of a creepy, vile ghost. The monster woman screamed. Again, that nasty, unpleasant scream. As if an unknown beast that does not exist in this world, a bloodthirsty ghost howled. "What a powerful force he has," the boy said in surprise. He was sweating, getting wet to the skin, as this fight was much harder than the previous ones. But he never stopped smiling even in difficult situations. The demon rushed towards him, breaking through the defense that Samuel had put up. This is strength. He did not expect this. "Things are bad. It seems it's too late to change something," the boy exclaimed in horror. He was seriously scared. The vile ghost approached him with its nasty muzzle. "Oh no!" the guy shouted, not understanding what to do. His fear was imprinted in the demon woman's vile eye. She looked at him intently, as if devouring him with her gaze. She began to scan the boy with even greater force. He spun before her eyes like a top. Samuel let his head drop down. It was as if he began to give up, not understanding how to defeat this powerful ghost. Kelly covered the boy's eyes with her hand at this time. She understood what would happen now. "You better not see this," she said, covering his face. After all, it was creepy to look at even for an adult, let alone a child. "Keep going crazy!" the ghost screamed from the mirror, laughing terribly at the guy. The monster put his nasty hand on the boy's head. And then his eyes glowed white. The pupils dilated. He could barely withstand this negative energy of the monster. "It seems my head is about to split open," the guy thought. His eyes seemed to be overgrown with scales. "It's good that the red python armor held out until the last and was able to protect my eyes. Otherwise, I could have been seriously injured," Samuel concluded. "I have to make a decision quickly. If I succumb to the force again, I'll lose," the guy thought, continuing to fight for his life. "The power of the red python!" he exclaimed. And he gestured forward with all his might, using the abilities of the snake. The ghost dodged a strong blow. After all, he was not stupid and was quicker than the previous demons. He dodged as quickly as Samuel. Streams of water, clouds of smoke. No wonder they went after a demon of a higher rank, if not the highest. "You guy has strength, but not enough speed." "How are you even going to catch me?" the ghost woman asked him. "Yes, you? Then why do you think my power is called the power of the red python?" He answered her calmly, smiling, so that she would not think that he could be scared even for a second. A couple of moments later, a hiss. The loud, terrifying hiss of a huge red python. "Let me go!" the ghost began to scream. He growled wildly, feeling the approach of death. After all, the python was stronger and stronger than the demon. It was just waiting for that moment to attack the ghost. The python squeezed the demon tighter and tighter. His eyes began to pop out of his sockets, and the tongue hung there, all bloody. The ghost from the mirror regrets coming into this world. "Phantom Energy Plus," the system announced. "I'm going to bite you right now," the ghost growled. He could not escape from the tight embrace of the red python. After all, he was seriously strong. The snake squeezed the monster's body tighter and tighter. And so, the expected happened. The demon's body was torn in half, and he fell piece by piece to the floor. There was a foul stench all around. He was torn to pieces, but still alive. Even torn to pieces by my snake power, he still did not lose consciousness and soul, the guy noticed, standing next to the torn ghost. Finally, some peace. But what kind of strange techniques does Samuel use? Kelly wondered, watching from the side. She could not yet fully understand him, because she still knew very little of him, much less his skills in fighting demons. He had his own, special approach to this. The half-dead ghost screamed, baring his terrible fangs. A piece of the body tried to crawl forward, but it was no use. Be careful! He is a top-ranked demon! You probably won't be able to kill this one with one movement, the girl exclaimed, worried that the demon would rise up. You think so? You shouldn't be so afraid of him, the boy reassured her with a smile. He already knew what step he would take next. Step aside! The guy answered her. A sharp, shiny dagger came out of his hand along with a scaly snake. The ghost jumped up, or rather, a piece of the monster, and opened its vile mouth. He approached the boy, trying to instill fear in him. But that was not the case. He turned out to be much braver than the monster thought. I will fight with her until my death, said Samuel, preparing to attack and repel an attack. The black ghost has been killed! He flashed in the green stench, revealing his long, crooked fangs.
The power of the red python, the boy exclaimed and waved his fiery hand, raising it. This was the next gesture to defeat the main target.
The guy had a huge, sharp sword in his hand. He was again in a bright yellow-green flame, but then the ghost pushed his sword away as hard as he could, and the boy flew to the side. This was quite unexpected. He looked at his shattered sword with anger in his eyes. What strength does this vile creature have that she was able to break his sword? How dare you challenge me to a fight to the death? Do you think you'll kill me? The bloodthirsty ghost growled and then laughed. He was getting closer and closer to the guy, stretching out its vile long claws, hissing with his tongue like an adder, and baring his vile sharp fangs. You are the one who started first. Cruel ghost! The boy exclaimed, and the demon was already trying to escape. I sensed my death close. Don't run away from me. Maybe we can meet face to face again to improve our relationship? Samuel turned to the monster, mocking him. I saw you in a coffin. Get out! The ghost answered him. His voice carried to all floors of the house. But he continued to run away, not wanting to die and disappear without a trace from this earth. Mom, it's very noisy upstairs, said the girl from the bottom floor, turning to her mother. Apparently, the girl thought about her boyfriend from the top floor. This guy must have missed the point. What are those sounds? It seems he is being tortured, thought the girl's mother. Quietly, I'll see what's there with one eye, said the curious woman, and walked up to the door. Meanwhile, the ghost was flying along the long corridor in the direction where the girl and her mother were. What's going on here? The woman asked in a loud voice, peeking around the corner.
She saw a terrible ghost flying along the corridor. The woman looked in fear, not understanding what was happening.
Come on, come and look at me! Otherwise, I will come and give you the kiss of death, the ghost shouted, laughing. Ghost! The woman exclaimed, as if she herself wanted to specifically attract his attention. Another explosion, a huge bright flame, fire, smoke, bright glow. Ghost in multicolored glow colors. He tried to run away, but the boy chased him as fast as he could. In no case did he want to lose sight of him, and so he approached him. It was a powerful blow that Samuel saved for the monster for last. He accelerated and hit him as hard as he could. From such a strong blow, the ghost instantly flew away and fell sprawled on the floor. He hit the concrete surface with his disgusting huge head. Little sister, don't worry. You only ate a couple of people, that's nonsense. I suggest you just sit down, discuss everything, and we'll calmly let you go. He turned to the lying monster. The ghost, lying on the concrete, already dying, bared his fangs, and tears glistened from his eerie eyes. He began to ask Samuel to spare his life. You're human, but you can talk to ghosts better than I can. Phantom Energy Plus, the system notified him. The monster began to cry streams of tears. He began to beg the boy for mercy. No matter how the evil demon tried to persuade Samuel, but his tears had no effect on the boy. Why did you leave so early? We could have chatted some more. Phantom Energy plus the mirror. Phantom is critically injured. Ghost energy plus the mirror ghost dies of grief. Phantom energy plus, said the alarm bug. Well, that's almost all, said Samuel, smiling with all his snow-white teeth. He already felt his great victory over the vile monster. Don't be afraid, I'm not going to stalk you. Don't worry, your powers have just been taken away, he said to him, placing his hand on the demon's head. So the road to hell is open. It's time for you to get out. The boy continued to mock the ghost with a smile. Stop! Please don't kill me! The demon began to beg. Bitter tears flowed from his terrible eyes. He again wanted to take pity on the guy, but the guy was far from a failure. He doesn't fall for such things anymore. Well, I should think about it, the guy said, holding his chin with his hand, as if he was really thinking about it. He just continued to mock. But it seems you're late, the boy exclaimed, looking at the exhausted ghost. A huge python was waiting for a command to finally finish off the bloodthirsty monster. Let's bury you alive, exclaimed Samuel. He has already ordered to end the monster forever. And a huge snake with sharp fangs began to do its job. The demon screamed with a terrible roar. He opened his vile mouth. Only the fangs sparkled in the rays of ghostly light. He writhed in his death throes, already with 1 foot in the flames of hell. He began to slowly disappear. The second half of his body was still burning in the heat of the red python. His head dissolved as if disappearing without a trace, and the whole body seemed to be eaten by acid. There were only bones left on the asphalt, one unfortunate skeleton. And all around was only the stench and green wisps of smoke. It was an incredibly beautiful victory over evil. Samuel, being half a snake, covered in places with red scales, stood pleased with his victory. He smiled as he was enveloped in the bright red flames of fire, and his green snake eyes shone brightly in this glow of fire. Whew, the top-ranked ghosts really turned out to be strong. They can withstand the attacks of 3 low-class ghosts at once, the monster hunter concluded. Name Samuel, Ghost Energy Demonization Card, Demon King of Confusion, the system informed him. Not bad. This ghost really helped me quickly clear the room of ghostly energy, the boy thought. He was pleased with his results. After all, he killed a high-ranking demon, which is not so easy even for demon hunters. Samuel, how are you? Kelly asked. She ran to him as fast as she could, because she was very worried about the boy. Oh, I've solved the problem with the ghost, he answered the girl. He smiled sweetly back at her, as if reassuring her. But this place and the bones are here. Can you help with them? Will you look? He turned to the girl, pointing to the skeleton, all that was left of the bloodthirsty monster. I'll help you report this to Adar. A help team will be here soon, Kelly answered him, already sending a message on the phone. Let's go. I'll give you a ride home, she suggested to the boy. No, I'll do it myself, Samuel answered her, lowering his head down, thinking about something. The car was heard unlocking. The girl walked up to her car and pressed the remote control. Wow! Your family is the second generation of rich people? The boy exclaimed in shock. He ran to the car and helped out his already big eyes. Wow! He was delighted with such a car. No, I bought it with my own money. 1 earned point of hell is worth 1,000 in our world, the girl explained to him. Yes? Then I need to look at mine, the guy thought. He immediately picked up his phone and started digging through it. The boy's hands were shaking from the curiosity that surged through him. Hell R. You have 150 points in your account. He read the notification in a special phone application. That's 1.5 million. Yes, I'm fabulously rich, exclaimed Samuel. He was incredibly happy about this. He was in 7th heaven. Samuel, can you tell me something about your grandfather? Kelly asked him. She was already driving her awesome car. The old man forbids me to tell anything about him. My grandfather is just a loader at a funeral home. But what does he know? The boy answered, sitting in the passenger seat. He definitely has a high social status, the girl answered him. She was very interested to know, but she understood that the guy didn't really want to talk about it. So that Samuel doesn't get offended by me, I should stop asking about my grandfather, Kelly decided, and change the topic of conversation. If you pay attention to pressing matters, Maybe you can tell me about two strong clans, Daomen and Yin Kao. The girl continued the conversation. Why are there two ruling powers in the supernatural world? The boy immediately answered the question with a question.
Initially, all power in the supernatural world belonged to the Bauman clan, Kelly began to explain to him.
100 years ago, the underworld rebelled. The methods of these criminals were brutal, and their leaders were especially ruthless. They directed all their strength towards the clan, and under pressure, they were able to divide power between themselves and the Daomen clan. The girl continued to tell. After that, Daomen could breathe a sigh of relief, she said, smiling. What? They were deprived of power, and they just took it and calmed down? The boy asked. He was interested to know more about this. You must understand that it's difficult to always be in charge, especially when you bear all the responsibility yourself, she explained to the guy. If Yin Kao's power gets out of control, then riots will begin in the Forbidden Zone, said Kelly. Then the boss will have to come to terms with the pressure and send his people there to hold the defense. They say that they protect the city, but in fact they take the lives of everyone who does not agree with their point of view, the girl said excitedly. Restricted zone. What is it? Samuel was further interested. A notification arrived on the boy's phone. Hellar. Yin Kao's power went out of control about 3 hours ago. A forbidden area in rebellion. Please, if you are level C+ and above, go to guard the city, the boy read. The Forbidden Zone is a place where terror reigns, she answered. And she lowered her head down. The girl's gaze seemed to go out. She was sad, and apparently there were reasons for that. There are only 6 such places. The serial code is SSS. Kelly continued to tell, bringing the boy up to date. From E to S, they are used to determine the threat level of the powers of strange people and ghosts, she said. Ghost King, Fierce Soul, Bloody Evil Ghost, Hostile Ghost, Resentment Ghost. And the most dangerous creature is the S-level Ghost King, the girl summed up. The danger level of the Forbidden Zone is higher than meeting the Ghost King. Samuel was surprised. Drops of sweat fell on the monitor, and their car was racing along the highway at full speed. Or rather, not theirs, but a girl named Kelly. By the way, there will be a group task in 4 days. How about joining us? The girl suggested to him. What is the group task? The boy asked, very mysteriously. This is such a big game. Are you brave enough to come? The girl asked. She spurred on with a laugh. It was funny. Of course we'll meet in 4 days, Samuel answered her. After all, he was a rather brave guy and did not want to give in to Kelly. The day after tomorrow, the master's mind-blowing party will take place, the boy thought. Then there will be a group task with Kelly, he continued to think. So where can I increase my ghost energy in the next couple of days? Huajing's ghostly energy will very soon exceed 1,000, Samuel monitored. And this is interesting, the boy thought, and hovered the cursor over one text. Event name, long dead patient. After the patient was taken to the hospital, the patient died literally overnight, and his duty nurse committed suicide on the steps of the stairwell. After the death, the bodies disappeared from the morgue after checking external surveillance and comparing the number of people entering and leaving the hospital. It was established that one of the corpses was somewhere in the hospital. He finished reading. It looks complicated, the boy said, and continued to delve into the system. Threat level, D+ task, single reward, 100 points, the alarm bug said. What will you do after school? One student asked another. I want to buy new clothes, the second answered, smiling. I look at beauties during the day, and at night I go to the hospital to increase my ghostly energy. Adrenaline in the body all day, the guy thought, passing by these girls who were having a nice conversation. Then a car almost crashed into these girls. He almost hit them at a pedestrian crossing. I barely managed to slow down. They screamed in surprise. What the hell are you doing? This car belongs to Mr. Shamil, forget it, said one of the girls. Samuel immediately seemed to fly to this car. He stopped in front of her, rooted to the spot, holding his hands in his pockets. The car drove right up to him. And he stopped, almost knocking him over too. Do you want to hide? Are you really scared? The man behind the wheel asked the boy. He bared his teeth in displeasure. I have the spiritual power of the 2 worlds of Lao Tzu. Do you think you can scare me like that? Samuel asked, smiling. Mr. Shamil, you're making progress. Does mommy no longer need to take you to school? The boy continued to ask, pointing his shoe at the car. Oh, you little thing! The headman growled, gritting his teeth. He was seriously angry, and then, to intimidate the guy, he pressed his foot on the gas pedal. The car made a growling sound. Smoke flew out from under the wheels. Wow! She's about to take off! Exclaimed one of the students passing by. It seems like the car is about to explode, the second guy shouted. It's very scary. Although, you thought you scared me with the gas pedal? Samuel laughed, continuing to stand in front of the car. You need to grow up, the boy whispered. His eyes became snake-like again. They turned green. Shamil was seriously scared. Sweat was dripping down his cheeks. And it was as if a snake surrounded him, hugging him around his neck. The guy finished. He was very scared. There was incredible horror in the eyes. And the snake squeezed his neck more and more. Snake! I'm deathly afraid of snakes, the elder cried. His cry reached Samuel, who walked happily further. My strength, even after 2 transformations into a demon, is more than enough to cope with such an idiot, the boy thought, smiling. His abilities improved quite well. Translate the page on the 2nd chapter of the dash before execute. The teacher began the lesson. All the students have already gathered in the classroom. Samuel studied the textbook with an important look. He opened it to the page that the teacher said, but he was cunning. There was a phone number in the book. What? SSS2. Codename Fengdu, 10 years of chaos, he read. The restricted area is located in Fengdu. He became seriously interested in this topic. It seems that the burst of Yin-Qi energy is a real harbinger of unrest in the restricted area. But only 8 years have passed since the last shocks, he was surprised, reading deeper and deeper. And then it was as if he was hit on the head. He heard his name, also in a loud, stern voice. What impudence! Get up from your seat and translate the first paragraph. The teacher turned to him. He was outraged by Samuel's behavior. An egg with the taste of fish, the boy began to translate. Everyone in the audience laughed loudly. My classmates were simply dying of laughter. Samuel behaves like he is mentally retarded, they said in class. Never mind, problems in the restricted area are none of my business. It's better to spend your energy on improving your own skills, the boy decided for himself. The school day was coming to an end. The students were already pretty exhausted. Aunt, can I have 2 chicken legs? Samuel asked, turning to the saleswoman. Bon appetit, young man, they answered him, giving him the order. Amazing aroma. Pleasant heat, thought the boy, preparing for the meal. After all, he was very hungry after a hard day at the university. He had already started to eat dinner when he noticed that 2 guys were approaching him. They came closer to him, and they introduced themselves. One was named Charlie, the other Jackson. It seems like I haven't run into any trouble lately. How dare you rub against me? He turned to the individuals who approached him. Others are afraid of Shamil, but aren't you afraid? Charlie asked him, eating a delicious, juicy chicken leg. I'm not afraid of him, idiot. Or rather, Jackson and I, okay? He continued. I'm not afraid for myself. There are 2 tigers here. The boy continued to praise himself and his friend. He acted very brave. I agree, I have nothing to fear either. He won't be able to deceive us, Jackson said. It lit up with some kind of bright glow of fire. Hey, his body is golden. It seems that Jackson is also one of the strange people, Samuel noted. After all, the guy's body shimmered in tongues of yellow-orange flame. Come on, I can easily deal with Shamil. So go away, let Daddy eat, Samuel said, leaning towards them, laughing slightly. My goddess Linda is coming, Charlie immediately exclaimed and almost twisted his neck, turning to look at the popular girl at the university. Meanwhile, she also glanced in their direction. He and his friend Jessica were going to lunch. Hey! Hi, Samuel! The girl shouted and waved her hand at him. She smiled sweetly at the boy. Hello! Charlie answered her instead of Samuel, and he opened his 2 palms in greeting. He smiled with all his teeth. Samuel, you don't like men, do you? Goddess Linda was the first to greet us, and you didn't even pay attention to this? Charlie asked him, being very surprised. Didn't I tell you yesterday not to pester him? Jessica began to swear at her again, She was very strict. How can a girl like you, who is good at everything, come up and give a gift to this inferior boy? Her friend continued to scold her. Okay, I understand. I'll go, Linda answered her. I recently found out that Shamil decided to deal with Samuel, so it's better for you not to interfere. She turned to her friend again. I asked my father to talk to him. Shamil will not harm him, Linda answered her, smiling. There are so many boys running after you. Can your father scare them all away? She asked the girl again. And then she continued the conversation. Listen, you can help Samuel, but if you get close to him and let the children of the aristocrats who are pursuing you understand this, they will simply kill you. Hurry up! We need help here! Someone shouted loudly near the hospital. On the street, there's a man here! Doctor! Hurry up! The orderlies were already carrying a man along the corridor on a stretcher. He's dying! The orderlies continued to scream. Meanwhile, the man was screaming in pain. They put ice on his face. His jaw was bleeding, as if a piece had been torn out. The patient has a severely deformed first side of his face, said one of the health workers. Call the chief doctor. He must be present at the operation, exclaimed the second medical worker. In front of us is a door with a sign called resuscitation. The patient lies with a dropper in his hand. The doctor leans over him and thinks. He scratches the back of his head, not knowing where to start. He has strange formations on his hands. Do you still want me to participate in this? The doctor asked, looking at his spotted hand. His hands were just moving, said one of the paramedics. Yes, but he's groaning in pain, the second one noticed. This, the doctor began. The three of them stood in front of the patient. The doctor stood with his mouth open, and the orderlies next to him with their eyes wide open and sweat on their faces. They did not understand what kind of case this was, first time in their practice. Are family members here? Asked the doctor. Well, what about other relatives? The head doctor continued to ask. They didn't want to start the operation without the consent of someone close to us. Quickly report to your superiors, the doctor shouted. Hurry up, he shouted after the paramedic, who was already running as fast as he could to the door. 3 days later, we see a yellow car moving. He drove out of the tunnel with bright headlights. Samuel was sitting in the back seat of the car. He was reading something on his phone with great interest. Hell Ardur Northern Path Hospital continues to receive patients in critical condition. Doctors and nurses die under unknown circumstances. The leadership asks the Yindao clan for help, the boy read. Boy, Northern Path Hospital has been uneasy lately. You should go to another hospital, the taxi driver said to Samuel. I won't go there, the boy answered, laughing. He continued to fiddle with his phone. The taxi driver was already not far from the hospital. There was literally a little time left, but he slowed down. There's a hospital ahead. Are you going to get there on your own? The driver turned to the guy again. Yeah, Samuel answered calmly. And he got out of the car, really heading towards the hospital. Nobody dares to go outside. And especially if there is devilry going on there, the boy said to himself. And now, in front of him, a huge hospital building could already be seen. Only it was a little dark inside. Leave! Get out now! Don't follow me! Don't follow me! A man shouted with a wild, crazy cry next to the hospital. He looked very strange and creepy. Samuel turned away from him and rushed in the other direction, away from this strange guy. This must be the hospital, the boy thought, coming closer and closer. He kept his hands in his pockets and walked around as if he were at home, and nothing strange was happening around him. Run away as quickly as possible. You better not let me down, the boy said as he entered the hospital. Someone was already moving along the corridor, like a zombie. It was clear that this was not just a person. Just got up to the first floor, and already there's a ghost? Samuel thought. His eyes lit up. The boy simply loved ghosts very much and longed to meet them. I like it, he exclaimed. Already drool sprayed from the guy's mouth. He rushed forward, and running up to a man walking along the corridor, he almost grabbed him by the chest. He began to wave his hand, scared. This man with the energy of a ghost gave him an alarm bug. Nurse, forgive me, I didn't want to scare you. He turned to the man in a white coat. Here's the setup. Who would have thought that she was just a person, the boy thought. The emergency department is on the 3rd floor. This is where you want to go, the nurse said. pulling away from the boy. "Oh, I'm not looking for a doctor." "I need to get to the morgue," the guy answered the frightened nurse. "What? To the morgue?" she asked, very surprised. My eyes bulged out, not expecting this from a simple person. After all, there is no trace of people here. Everyone is afraid of this hospital like fire. "Yes, I really need to be there," answered Samuel. He smiled somehow strangely. Apparently, this did not deserve the nurse's trust. "You? What do you want?" she exclaimed. The girl turned green with horror and jumped to the side. "There's no need to be afraid. I'm not a killer, as you might think," the boy said, raising his hands, as if showing that he was unarmed. "No! Don't ask me anything!" the nurse shouted, and turned around and quickly ran away from the guy. "I don't laugh sincerely enough, huh? Why are you running away?" he shouted after the paramedic, waving his hand. "This is a hospital. Why so much noise?" asked one of the employees, opening the door. Although in connection with recent events, there was nothing surprising in this. "I'm sorry, I just wanted to ask where your morgue is," the boy answered him mockingly. He expected that this guy would run away and tinker, but strangely enough, he continued to stand. "Morgue?" the man in the medical suit asked him in surprise. It's even strange that he didn't give up, Samuel thought, smiling. "Are you here to take care of this?" He continued the conversation as he walked out the door. Still, streams of sweat ran down his face. "Do you know something about the morgue?" The boy finally perked up. Otherwise, he was already tired of looking for this place throughout the hospital. For some reason, the man showed his teeth and laughed. He behaved no less strangely than the nurse who ran away. "I was the one who ran to report to the boss about the situation in the hospital," the guy said, remembering. "Run and report everything to your superiors." "Immediately," he recalled. "Now it is clear. Then please take me there," he asked him, looking into his eyes. And so they entered a long, dark corridor. There, further on, a turn was visible. Apparently, it led in the direction of the morgue. "You will need to turn left," said the paramedic, and pointed his finger in the direction where the turn led. After the disappearance of a patient, something strange is happening in the hospital, the health worker began to tell him, with a rather frightened expression on his face. Apparently, he has already seen a lot here. "It all started in the intensive care unit," continued the hospital employee. "One of the patients was lying in the ward, covered with a blanket. My father is paralyzed. Where are these traces coming from?" asked the boy who entered the room. "These marks are only fingers," the guy was surprised. He began to look at every trace leading to the bed on which this man lay. Most likely this ghost is not possessed, the boy thought to himself, approaching the bed. After some time, it's already evening. The boy is sitting on a chair in the room next to the bed on which his father was lying. He bowed his head, resting it on his hands. But the boy didn't fall asleep. He just sat there thinking, apparently waiting for his father to wake up. Then he heard some strange noise on the bed. It was as if someone suddenly got off the bed and stepped on the floor with bare feet. The boy immediately raised his head and looked in that direction. He was very scared. Drops of sweat flowed down his face and neck, and he became completely wet from head to toe. But he still didn't understand anything, he seemed to think. And then a man looked at him, but it was like an old man, like a dried-up living corpse. But the boy did not raise his head. He continued to look at the floor. It seemed like this man was invisible, or he simply didn't notice. The next morning when he woke up, nothing had changed. His father was still sleeping. The boy constantly came close to him, but everything was the same. He thought that everything would go away by itself and return to normal, the health worker continued to tell. But the old man died that same day, the man said. He told this with great wariness and fear in his voice. The old man's body disappeared after being taken to the morgue. What? Where is the person? The medical worker asked when he entered the room. He simply disappeared. How can this be? The employee was surprised, covered in goosebumps and sweat. Ghost, thought the guy. My heart beat 10 times faster. He was simply in a state of shock. Don't tell anyone about this. After the old man disappeared, several more patients died from serious illnesses. The man continued to talk with horror in his eyes. And all the circumstances of death are exactly the same as those of that old man, he said, remembering what was happening with fear and horror. Then he took out a bunch of keys, holding it in his hands, about to open the door. He inserted the key into the keyhole. A kind of stench came from there, as if wisps of lilac smoke were coming out. The morgue caretaker also died under unclear circumstances. "So I'll open the door for you myself," the man told him, and then chuckled. "Do you still want to come in?" the man asked him, sweating again. And the cold haze kept coming out and enveloping them. "Let's go into the room already." "How can I get into it if the door is locked?" Samuel asked, already starting to get nervous. And so they entered this room. The paramedic walked very carefully and warily, as he was incredibly afraid, having seen so many strange things in this hospital. "Don't forget to close the door behind you, otherwise all the cold air will go away," he said, turning slightly to the boy. Samuel slammed the door shut. The paramedic jumped up in surprise, and the boy immediately closed the door with a latch. Apparently, he decided to finally mock the hospital employee, intimidating him in this way. He began to pour out sweat. And he looked questioningly at Samuel, as if not understanding why he had locked the door. "Why do you want me to close the door, you idiot? Are you afraid that the corpse will escape?" "Prizoac Energy Plus," the system notified him. "Why were you behind me?" the man exclaimed in fear. And the boy's eyes were already glowing with a bright light. After all, he immediately understood who he was dealing with. The demon hunter figured out who was hiding behind this face. "Low-rank ghosts have a cold aura. Phantom Energy Plus," said the beetle alarm. "This means that this demon was not as strong as the last one. It's not often you see a person who can challenge a ghost. Come on, show me where the corpses are." "I'm shocked." Samuel turned to the paramedic and commanded in a sharp tone. The man led him further, to where there were a lot of dead bodies. They were all covered with white sheets. "And yet the corpses lie here?" "It seems that not a single corpse has disappeared," the boy said, looking at the bodies. "Maybe." "Have they all returned?" said the paramedic, frightened. He pretended to know nothing and was scared to death himself. "What? Are you back?" Samuel asked, looking with a piercing gaze at the frightened man in a robe. "It would be great if I didn't have to run after anyone," the boy answered him, grinning. +6 ghostly energy," the system announced. He sharply placed his hand on one of the corpses. "What?" For some reason, the guy was surprised and pulled back a little from the bed with the server. +3 ghostly energy, +2 ghostly energy, +5 ghostly energy, the system continued to notify. "My face, you, your uncle?" One of the corpses began to babble with his tongue hanging out. He was already decomposing little by little. His teeth were flying out when he tried to say something. "I'm an orphan, I don't have any uncle," the boy answered him, and immediately burst out laughing. Samuel is used to not losing his sense of humor, even in the morgue. "Your uncle!" The corpse continued to speak. He began to reach out with his hand towards the guy, trying to reach him. Interesting, the boy thought. He grimaced and began to get a little angry. The corpse nevertheless pissed him off, to his own misfortune. "Yes, you are mentally retarded." "I told you I'm an orphan!" he exclaimed, and punched him in the face with all his might. "Hell, this guy dared to hit the ghost!" The corpse, rising to its feet, screamed with a wild cry. +8 ghostly energy, said the beeper. The dead man grabbed the cheek where the boy was hit. "You are all just ghosts. What should I be afraid of?" "You took my bed. Shouldn't I beat you?" Samuel answered him. He decided to act according to the plan he had just come up with. "Hey, brother. How long have you been dead?" he asked him, leaning closer. 4 days. "What?" the corpse asked him. 4 days, I'm just counting, the boy answered him. And he began to bend each finger, really counting something there. He was very surprised when he reached the desired number. Apparently, he compared it with some date. All people are swindlers on the 7th day of the 7th month. "You've only been here for 4 days. I'm afraid there's something wrong with you," Samuel exclaimed, grabbing him by the throat on both sides with his hands. "The corpse is afraid of you. Phantom energy plus phantom energy plus phantom energy plus phantom energy plus," the system repeated, as if it was jammed. "Master, I'm already dead. What could be wrong with me?" the corpse asked the boy, touching his cheek. "You seem confused. It's the law of nature to return to the soul on the 7th day of the 7th month, don't you know?" He turned again to the dead man. The guy seemed to have an epiphany. He started smiling, because this is the best place for jokes and smiles. Master, if you return before these 7 days, it will not only affect the future of your family. This may even affect your next reincarnation, the Golden Master told the corpse. Master, what should I do to solve this problem? The corpse immediately asked, turning to the Golden Man, looking up. It's very simple, the Master answered him. He smiled as if grimacing, and continued to explain to the corpse the further course of his actions. You must die again, and then wait out these 7 days, only then will you get your soul back, he said, trying to deceive the dead ghost. +9 ghost energy. +4 ghostly energy, the system announced. Oh, you liar, I will kill you! And your uncle, the corpse exclaimed, and rushed at Samuel with his fists. With a menacing look, he tried to approach the boy armed with a bladed weapon. The boy, meanwhile, was already ready to attack. He took out his hooked, sharp cleaver, which he had inherited from the demon woman. Then I will send you to the next world, to my uncle, the guy said, and jumped towards him, intending to strike. Apparently, he was already tired of messing around with the corpse ghost and wanted to deal with him as soon as possible. A low-ranking ghost is afraid of you. Phantom energy +9, the system notified him. So little ghostly energy. Annoying, exclaimed Samuel. And then he cut off the head of the dead ghost. He decided not to bother with this nonsense for long. His head flew to the side and rolled on the cold concrete floor. Streams of stinking blue smoke flowed from him and spread throughout the morgue. How can black resentment harm people? Maybe it allows you to die painlessly, the boy thought to himself meanwhile, and the health worker was completely silent, watching what was happening from the side. He hid behind one of the beds with the dead man, clutching the metal leg of the bed. All you could hear was the chatter of his teeth against each other. He was very afraid that he would suffer the same fate as this corpse, from which Samuel skillfully and quickly removed the head. Sweat was flowing down his cheeks. He was even afraid to move, let alone get out from behind the bed. He is alive and well even 7 days after his death. Isn't there another one? The boy said, smiling. After all, he quickly defeated this ghost corpse, and he couldn't wait to save the rest of the people from the invasion of ghosts that had taken over the hospital. Also, one scam is hiding somewhere, the guy said, and extended his hand to one of the corpses lying on the bed. Here, said the boy. He identified another living ghost, and he quickly removed the sheet. A new dead ghost was already grinning there. He was already lying with his eyes open, just hiding. Probably the rest were like that too. They were afraid to move so that the boy wouldn't cut off their disgusting heads. Uncle, wake up quickly! You urgently need to get up and take some medicine, Samuel said, giving him a slap on the cheek. He had his own methods of awakening the ghosts of corpses. Oh, you bastard! I just fell asleep! The corpse immediately screamed. Phantom energy +8, the system announced. What are you doing here? The ghost shouted. He screamed so loudly that the boy recoiled to the side. His ears almost got clogged. There was a ringing and tingling sound in the boy's ears. Uncle, you need to take a sleeping pill and go to bed. The guy turned to him, scratching his ear, which was already ringing from such a loud exclamation. Did you wake me up so I could take some sleeping pills? You're a man, the ghost corpse said in response. Where is my medicine? He cried again. This ghost was more terrible than the first, or rather, more disgusting. Very vile with huge sharp fangs and small demonic eyes. And Samuel was already doing his job. He swung the shiny, sharp weapon and stuck it right into the face of that vile ghost screaming at him. This was the medicine intended for the dead demon. There was a wild cry. The demon was screaming in pain. He looked at him with creepy demonic eyes. They glowed with a white transparent light and were completely without pupils. Oh, sorry, I forgot to bring the medicine. You don't mind that I use physical force instead of sleeping pills? He asked the corpse of the ghost, as if mocking. The boy did not stop smiling impudently. Apparently, he decided to kill all the demons in the hospital. A low-level ghost is scared to death. Ghostly energy plus, said the alarm bug. Another one is dead. This is terrible, said the health worker. He remained watching from the sidelines. And until now, he had not let go of the iron bed leg from his hands. He smelled of fear even more than before. The bed was shaking from the way he was trembling. "Hey, I know you, big rat. Stop pretending." "Can we talk normally?" Samuel asked the paramedic, who was shaking with fear. He continued to provoke him in order to quickly deal with this monster. He finally stood up, tearing himself away from the foot of the bed. He knitted his eyebrows and then looked at the boy, pouring out. The ghost hospital employee was simply pushed into a corner. Samuel knew what he was doing. "At first, I wanted to kill you when you let your guard down. But it seems I underestimated you," the ghost paramedic told him. He was no longer so afraid, but was ready to defend himself by going on the attack. And then he began to transform. His face changed dramatically, it became gray. And on the head, a new pair of eyes grew, only much larger than usual. These were 2 huge convex pupils. Now he had 4 nasty eyes. He shouted sharply and, having completely transformed, rushed forward with a cry calling on the others for help. He had to jump over his fear because he had to protect himself. "Wait for the moment when he chops you all into pieces. Go to him together," the ghost paramedic shouted. He was still a little smarter than the other dead demons. And he gave them a good idea, the boy thought meanwhile, moving back a little. The dead began to slowly rise, rising from their beds. The white sheets kept rising and rising. The vile ghosts rose from their beds. They screamed terribly, each making their own scream. Someone growled. Someone screamed. They walked slowly, approaching Samuel. They looked like walking zombies. "Why are you forcing us? We just want to live. Why is something wrong with us?" The ghosts and demons screamed. Their eyes were without pupils and glowed with a bright white light. They seemed empty. And the bodies are brown, with transparent yellow veins protruding from the face. "Are you going to live off cannibalism?" the boy exclaimed in response. He was trying to do something. After all, there were too many of them, and he was all alone behind a latched door. "Forward! Kill him!" The vile creatures continued to scream. They opened their huge, terrible mouths wider and wider, and came closer and closer to Samuel. They did not want them to suffer the same fate as the 2 of them who were exterminated by this brave and dexterous boy, a hunter of demons and terrible bloodthirsty ghosts.